We got one more story to talk about before we go for today. It's about The Last of Us Season 2. We got some casting news. I'm pulling here from Tom Ivan at VGC. According to Variety, Danny Ramirez from Top Gun Maverick and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to play Manny, a loyal soldier whose sunny outlook belies the pain of old wounds and a fear that he will fail his friends when they need him most. Tati Gabrielle from You and the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina will play Nora, a military medic struggling to come to terms with the sins of her past. Ariella Bearer from How to Blow Up a Pipeline and Runaways is going to play Mel, a young doctor whose commitment to saving lives is challenged by the realities of war and tribalism. And finally, Spencer Lord from Riverdale and Family Law is going to play Owen, a gentle soul trapped in a warrior's body, condemned to fight an enemy he refuses to hate. Let me pull up the graphic here.
Yeah, let me see some faces.
So these are the faces. So I don't recognize most of them by name, but now that I see their face, I do. Like I remember this guy from Falcon and Winter Soldier who's playing Manny. I remember liking him in Falcon and Winter Soldier. The show sucked, but I thought he was pretty good. Yeah, he's a good actor. I've not seen You, but I've heard that Tati Gabrielle is good.
She's great.
Yeah, I've heard that she's really good, so that's exciting. Yeah. And these other two, I don't know. I've not seen Riverdale or How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which Ariella's in. But in terms of looks, I think it all works from a look standpoint. What I really hope, especially knowing that we have Danny Ramirez and Ariella and Tati Gabrielle, who I'm sure these other two actors are great too, but I'm hoping that we get more from these four characters. I'm hoping that we get because like, especially Manny and Nora seemed to be such interesting characters because we get a fair amount of Owen and Mel in the game. Mm-hmm. But Nora and Manny, I feel like we didn't get a ton of, and I think there's probably a lot of really interesting stuff that we could do or that we could see with those characters. But at a glance, like how are you guys feeling about this casting update for season 2? Do you care at all?
Kimmy, you go first. You're more of a movie buff, show buff than.
Yeah, so one of the things that also came out earlier today too that I saw is that they apparently had rented out a cabin, or they rented out like a former, or maybe it's still like a ski resort that they were like shooting in.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Which gives me a lot of thought of like, what the fuck is season 2 going to be?
Sure.
So my big thing is less about like the capabilities of the actors, because we look at someone like Bella Ramsey, who didn't really have like some massive back catalog of work to build off of and put out an incredible performance as Ellie. With that being said, though, part of me wonders, and this has been my thought process, the big opening of part 2 will be the climax of the end of the season. So my hope
is that's what you think?
That's what I think. And what I'm hoping is if they do it like that, we will get more time with these actors as their respective characters, so that we do get to spend more time with them. Because you're right. Characters like Manny and Nora, while they do get screen time in the game, it's very limited.
Yeah.
And I do think it would be really cool to spend more time with the other side of part 2 before the events that lead into the others, the group from part 2. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would love to see like a lead in, and I don't, because I think the truth is, yes, one season I think was enough for us to be able to fall in love with Pedro Pascal as Joel, but I don't think it's enough time for it to have that same emotional resonance if you start season 2 off like they did part 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
Had so many years and so many people had played this game so many times over and over and over and over again in the lead in. Joel became legitimate video game daddy. Where like, yes, I do think that people love Pedro Pascal, but I think an average viewer that's not connected to the games needs more time with him to have that same impact that we did. Because we got to spend 13 to 15 hours in part 1 playing as Joel. We were Joel. So I think it's really important that they take time to flesh out some more there. And I think doing that to keep the momentum, the pace, and everything that you want with a season 2, we need to spend way more time with those characters.
Interesting. So instead of kind of with the structure of the first game, we'll skate around spoilers, but with the structure of the second game, the kind of what Naughty Dog tries to do is get you to flip your opinion on some of these characters.
Yeah.
You're thinking that they'll just go the way that from beginning to end of, we want you to like these characters, and then maybe we'll have you change your mind.
So I think the thing is here is the way that you flip the script, and you can do it a really smart way, is that you get to start to like these characters. Then they do something so fucking horrendous, you hate them. You go into season 3 hating these people, right? Just, I don't want to even look at them on screen. Then you have to go with the
try to
impact.
re-earn it.
Exactly. I think that works. I think that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they'll do it.
Sure. Yeah. Because I wonder if instead of it being a season 1 or season 2 end, if it's like a 3/4 of the way through season 2 or halfway through season 2, because I think the just the amount of story, unless they really add a lot to it, I don't know that there's enough to fill a season before you get to what essentially is like the inciting incident of the second game. It's like, it's what sets in motion
everything,
the point of the game, right? Like the kind of the main plot point. So I don't know that you can do it to where it's all the way at the end, but I do think that you're onto something, and that I could see them with these 4 especially building in more time with them, so that it's not just an immediate boom, okay, now let's hit the ground running kind of thing. Because yeah, I think too, like with Owen and Mel especially, even though they were in the second game a lot, their game or their stories are really abruptly ended for a purpose. But I wonder too if we just get more to make it not feel as abrupt, perhaps.
Well, and I think too, I think the other thing, and I feel like I'm taking a lot of airtime here on this, but I think the big thing for me is that when we had, I think the perfect example here is the Bill and Frank story.
Sure.
Was not in the game. Sure, we had letters. We kind of had some sprinkling of an idea. And Bill was only in the game for maybe 45 total minutes of gameplay. Maybe.
Yeah.
And you had a
chapter.
I mean, he's now considered like an icon in history of television, right?
Sure, yeah. Emmy winning.
So can you imagine, though? Hear me out. They write like a whole season of television of like scrap material that could have or would have been in the games previous.
Could.
I think that like, I would love to be like, I know what's going to happen through the course of season 1 and whatever's going to happen with video game related portion. I would love to be thrown off guard by it, including a lot more information or story developed, killer characters, narrative, whatever, of like, this is other things that are happening that you never got to see. I would love to have just more in that world. So I would love that.
Yeah, I can get down with that, because I also wonder with this, like, there's always the like nefarious, like Warner Brothers at the top kind of thing of like, how can we milk this? How can we make more money? Because ultimately, you know, they're making the show to make money, right? So that, I mean, that's a way of extending it to keep faces around, to keep names around, and adding it, you know, having Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin at the helm of writing. I'm sure they could fill really good shit in that. But Mondo, any thoughts from you here? Anything working for you?
Outside of them building on, like, you know, Manny and them, because I think Manny needs to be built on. Like, he's a character who I felt had a lot to say about everything going on. Like, he was very emotional in that game. And it was just like, all right, cool. Like, how the hell did we get here, though?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I feel like there's a lot of story to be told there. And so I do think we are going to get more of a build up to that moment. But I also think that there's also probably plenty story to tell. Maybe not story to tell, but character arc to build in the change in Joel's and oh my God, her name is slipping my mind right now. Ellie's relationship.
Yeah.
And where it goes following what happens in season 1. Where I think the way stories are told in video games, you can throw us into that big plot point moment early in the game, and then allow us to find our way into the story. Where I feel like that's a little harder to do in a show, especially when you left people off in that cliffhanger. It's like, all right, cool. Like, where are we?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to do that massive time jump and just skip over everything. I feel like you could spend a few episodes.
Sure. Yeah, because there's a 4-year jump at the beginning of the game.
You know, like showing how she feels in that initial at that initial point. Because then I also think that then builds on everything that happens afterwards, even more so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree that it could be end of season thing. It could be a middle of the season thing.
Man, I would love it if season 2 is just that 4-year jump.
Because remember,
it's only
going to be like 8 episodes. It's freaking it's HBO.
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. Now you got me excited.
So I want to say something so bad, but it's gonna give things away. So I'm gonna say it after the show. But
sure, okay, yeah. Because I also this conversation, and also like the more I've been thinking about the show in general, I'm pretty confident that we're not going to do the same time jump where like chunk 1 of the game, reset chunk 2 of the game. I don't think they're going to do it that way. I think it's going to be all interspersed together. I just don't think that would work for TV. I think that's a style of storytelling that worked for the game for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't work with, but I don't think that TV can do that. I don't think you can not have certain characters in like an entire season of a show. I just like Game of Thrones is the perfect example. Books 4 and 5. Book 4 only has a ton or like so many characters aren't in book 4. They come in book 5. Main characters, Jon Snow, Daenerys, like they're just not in the 4th book at all. But in the show, they weave book 4 and 5 into one thing because they just you can't have like the main face of the franchise not be in a season of television.
I also feel like people didn't like that split in the game because they didn't like that split. You know, I didn't like that split. I didn't like it. I was like, hell no. For sure. I'm done playing this game.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think of the casting. I'm sure in the coming weeks. Oh yeah, go ahead.
This wasn't recent news, but I looked because I was looking this up before the show. Catherine O'Hara is also like an unknown character, and I love her.
Can't wait.
I don't know what they're gonna do with her, and that also just lends into we're adding new characters, like we're adding story that's not in the game. And I'm so excited to see what her character is going to be.
What if season 2 we don't have Joel and Ellie at all? It's just Catherine O'Hara is now the main character.
I'm here for it, man.
Oh, I know you are.
Oh man.
But yeah, let us know what you think of the casting so far with these 4 additions and what your thoughts on season 2 is going to be. We're not going to see it for a while. It's probably going to be at least a year until we see it. But and that's our show, folks. That we've covered all the things we came to cover. Mondo, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while, but I always love having you on the show, especially the wealth of knowledge you have around Final Fantasy VII. For the folks at home that already follow you, you have a little news for them. But before you get into that, if they don't follow you, where can they find you on social media? What are you working on? What do you want to tell the folks at home at the Spotlight Games audience about Mondo's world?
Well, you can find me at Chunklet the Mangu on everything. Gamertag 2, PSN, Steam, feel free to add me. But you might want to send me a message because if I get friend invites that I don't recognize, denied. But also, it's funny because like I said in the pre-show, I was supposed to announce this in another podcast that I did with you guys, but depression's a bitch, let me tell you. And so we're out of that rut, and I'm really happy to announce that later this week I'll be launching my new podcast. And it's been a while since I've been on a podcast. As you guys know, I used to do the Save Point with my co-host Alyssa Rosa, and we no longer do the show. And I've really missed podcasting. Yeah. And I really hate talking about video games on Twitter because it is so difficult to have a nuanced conversation on there.
It is.
And so we're just going to create a space to talk about games. And so later this week, if you follow me on social media, you'll see the promo for a podcast called We Talking About Games. And you'll be able to see more there.
Hell yeah.
By the time this episode goes live, it'll probably be live.
For sure.
So for y'all live listeners, y'all are getting the first scoop.
Getting that first scoop. Yeah, follow Chocolate the Mangu everywhere on socials. Because I'm sure We Talking About Games is going to have their own socials too, maybe, potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm trying
see.
to be the vehicle, but I might have to. I was thinking about that today. I was like,
we'll see. We'll see.
And I was looking at your guys' account, and I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, I'll be the first to say I don't post nearly enough on the Spotlight Games socials as I should, because you got to be there every day, and I'm not there every day, but that's okay. We can all be better. Cayman, where can the folks follow you at home?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Dumpster Boy.
We lost him.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you can follow me on. I'm not going to give you my personal Instagram account because I don't want you creeps stalking me. Actually, I just never post on my own personal Instagram account.
That's true.
Just Twitter.
You can follow me at Patrick Schreck. You can follow the pod on Twitter at Spot Games Pod and at Spotlight Games Pod. Everywhere else, that's Twitter. Nope, that's Instagram. That's TikTok. That's Twitch. That's YouTube. Make sure you follow us over there so that you know when we go live, especially on Twitch, because we're affiliates now, so we can actually make a little cash money if you're subscribing. So especially those of you that have Amazon Prime, we would love it if you sent your Twitch Prime sub to us over here at Spotlight Games Pod on Twitch. But until next week, thanks for being here. We'll be back later this week with a Spotlight Games stream of some kind. Which we'll talk about on social. We'll talk about on the Discord. Until then,
for democracy.
For democracy.